Good evening, guys. Hopefully you're all doing well. It's just going to be a just trade recap on our YM trade that we took this New York session. If you guys were able to leave, if you guys were able to watch the stream this morning, you would have already known that we did hit take profit in the idea that we had today. A bit of a mixed thesis that we had during this session, New York session in the morning, just because first of all, I was anticipating a deeper retracement on YM, just due to the fact that just due to the conditions of price action. But we'll get to it. Let's start with the daily time frame. As I break down, I'll let you guys know what I was thinking at the moment. First of all, on Tuesday, we formed this reversal with an SMT here. Tuesday gave us that nice C2 closure, right? ES was the one to create the actual. Was it ES? Yeah. ES was the one that took out the Monday's previous day's low, while YM and Q created a failure swing. So saying that, we had that cracking correlation, anticipating us to continue going higher, especially with YM having these clear draws right here, all these failure swings, and including the relevant swing point right here. So on the daily time frame, that was my idea. We're just this is the actual current candle right now. Let me just put it on replay mode. So just looking at the daily time frame, these are our areas of interest, clearly, right, on this specific time frame, right? Really nothing much else to trade. We could have also noted this order block right here, but realistically, if there is no gap, I personally trade into the high, relative high, right? Clearly, if you see a gap like this, you can clearly anticipate price to trade into it, and you can see how price was able to do that and reject back to ERL. So IRL to ERL, then from ERL, is it now anticipating that? Are we going to go ERL to inefficiency to the IRL, or ERL to ERL, right? So it's all the universal model. If you guys don't know what that means, you should look that up, because basically that is the key thing to the market. It's how I look at it. But yeah, so seeing how this was considered a C2, anticipating now this current daily candle today during today's session was going to be an open low high close type of scenario, a C3, right? So having that idea on the daily time frame, which is one of the reasons why I don't know why I was looking for a short, anticipating that we were looking for a C3, but we'll get into that in a second. So coming into the 4 hour right now, I'll mark my daily open, which was right here. We had a SMT with the 10 p.m.'s candle, with this down close candle on the 4 hour from yesterday's session in the afternoon. So seeing that, we were able to form a nice C2 on the 4 hour and a continuation higher. So the C3 and the C4, which actually price targeted the previous day's high right here, right? So something to keep in mind, guys, is that you always want to be asking yourself, what's the phase of price? You know, like, are we in a reversal signature? Are we consolidating? Are we manipulating? Right? These are things that you need to be talking to yourself and breaking down price that way, because this is how you would be able to get aligned with the price action, understanding what price is doing. So as mentioned, C2 formation at 10 p.m. We have the C3 and the C4. C4 was the 6 a.m. candle attacking previous day's high, right? So I'm not saying that was the draw of the day, but that is a key level where you want to be cautiously looking at and anticipating what is price doing at this specific area of interest. Are we manipulating? So manipulating to reverse lower, or are we failing to manipulate and disrespecting the previous day's high and willing to continue going higher? So with YM, it was a little tricky, because if I show you the other assets, look at NQ. During that 6 a.m. candle, the 4 hour, I'm going to erase this here. during the 6 a.m. 4-hour candle, we expanded hard, and we expanded already past the previous day's high. Previous day's high was already taken at the open, right? So we already knew that YM was the lagging asset for today's session, and NQ was the strongest, right? And then notice how we were able to well, actually, this was at the end of the day. Wow, this was actually very clean still. I'm surprised that NQ did that, but we were able to expand higher, and I was looking at this gap right here. Okay. We had this gap that was traded into, and when we were within this gap here, ES was actually above its previous day's high as well. So both ES and NQ were really high up within its range, and we were actually, let's see if this was here. So yeah, this candle was right here. So the bottom of that gap on the NQ is this candle right here on ES. But notice how where this gap is for YM, it's this right here, this candle right here, right? So there was a somewhat of a SMT, right? But not even just that, we had an SMT right here within these highs, right? Because NQ and YM expanded, so ES expanded very high compared to what YM is doing. So this is something that you have to keep in mind, that during these type of scenarios, you really want to see what, well, realistically, what the weakest asset's doing, right? Because right now, since YM is the weakest, you want to see a strength switch, right? Clearly, like, because we can see ES and NQ expanded much higher, further away where YM is. So if we are bullish, which we already confirmed that based on the daily time frame, we want to see a type of strength switch happen here with YM, for YM to catch up, and then NQ and ES to consolidate. I'm pretty sure you can see that within this 10 a.m. candle, how we had a nice expansion candle here. But look at ES, very small candle, and even worse, look at NQ, a very just basically a doji candle, right? So you can see it in live price action here, like I'm showing you here, right? The difference, how NQ and ES were stronger within its previous 4-hour candle, but became weaker within the next candle, the 10 a.m. candle. And this is where we were able to execute. So seeing how 6 a.m. closed, first of all, I broke it down on the hourly. You could see how we reversed at 9 a.m., right? And then 9 a.m. for NQ and ES expanded much higher. So it was a decoupled move right there, first of all. So realistically, if it's a decoupled move, you want to see the one that's going the opposite. You need to see if it's now failing to manipulate, or is it actually manipulating and reversing. So expansion with an expansion. Because once you see the this starting to expand, you would want to start. You'll start to see NQ and ES start to expand as well. What made it actually, well, sorry, I was mistaken there. It was actually the opposite. Since this was the leading asset, you would actually see, well, actually, no, not really, because then it would be considered, well, realistically, no. I take that back, because you would personally want to see these reverse first. You would want to see these reverse as well, but since YM was the weakest, this would be the first to reverse, realistically. And I was basing this off the hourly candle, just because of how we closed back within the range, and we somewhat closed just at the CE of this gap right here. So it was a little tricky to confirm the bullish idea, right? I was patiently waiting here for 10 o'clock. You can see at 10 o'clock, if we actually go into the smaller time frames, right, we kept expanding lower here. And then, as you can see, once we expanded much lower, you can see how NQ and ES started to change in state, right? You can see how we opened up at 10 o'clock, and actually 10 o'clock formed another SMT with its 4-hour current high, right? You can see here, oops, I don't know why I did that. See, we formed an SMT here at the highs, while YM's current 10 a.m. candle was at the very bottom at the current time. during New York session. So there was an SMT there, right? Going on to the hourly, we also had that PSP right there, down close candle for YM and an up close candle for NQ and ES. So it was a mixed thesis on the smaller time frames because of the decoupled market, that it made it a little trickier to see what price was actually going to do, right? So going back on that 5-minute idea, my first trade of the day was actually shorting this expansion below this change in the state, because I was thinking, okay, we're not willing to continue going higher here, and we're actually closing below these down close candles. So I was anticipating a move lower back to this swing point that formed the low of day here, right? We also had some nice failure swings, right? Equal low, right here. So I was anticipating that for YM to retrace deeper before going to continuing higher, but you can clearly see how that failed immediately right after. So that trade idea was invalidated due to that. There was even a minor SMT here, but nothing too strong. Again, I think personally this was a mistake for me, learning lesson, because one thing I noticed on YM was that, look at this, that I didn't notice at the time we were live streaming. We were within this gap here. Okay, this gap said it all. You can see how, like, we did close below it, which is all right, but again, it's not something that just because we closed below it is going to be a confirmed reversal. Again, you can clearly see that we expanded much higher, and then we were able to get that change in the state of delivery for the buy side. So realistically, after that, I actually reversed my trade before even getting stopped out, which was right here. I actually entered right here, had my stop loss right here, and was targeting these failure swings right here. Risk to reward was good. I'm not sure what happened here. I tried moving my stop loss. Yeah, I remember I was trying to move my stop loss, but for some reason it closed the trade. I don't know if I pressed the button wrong, but it closed it, and you notice that on my Instagram post. You can see it actually closing, and then I re-entered immediately. But this would have been the ideal trade right here. So you can see how 10 o'clock's 30 candle consolidated. Basically, the whole hourly candle consolidated, which confirmed the C2 on the hourly, right? So let's break it down, okay? First of all, 4 hour, we had a C3 and a C4. Clearly, after all this expansion, 2 4-hour candles expansions, you want to see a new phase of price, okay? That is the first thing, and this is what I was saying with NQ as well. We kept going higher here, right? Same thing with this. Before this expansion, I did not like this, right? There was nothing to trade with it, right? Again, so we had this nice change in the state of delivery. Clearly, you could have traded this, but this was at 6 a.m. I'm not looking at the charts during that time. 8 o'clock, there would have been a different story probably. Again, this would have been a good entry on the 15-minute, right? But again, I personally didn't really like it, just because we kept expanding, consolidating, right? I wanted to see some type of manipulation. See, this is the type of thing I like to see, is this. And then getting that confirmation, right? But overall, if you were able to confirm this C2, right? Well, this is not a C2, but you would want to see the next candle close above the C2, right? This is the confirmation, this specific candle here. I would say that one thing that I guess I could have done better was maybe waiting for the confirmation of this V-shaped reversal, right, based off that 30-minute candle. But sometimes it's not really necessary, because once you start to see that V-shape, you can anticipate that specific 30-minute candle that I mentioned, the C3. Why did I do that? The C3 right here, this candle. If you're anticipating that, you can definitely, and we had an SMT here, right? So if was there a PSP here? there was a PSP right here. This down close candle, YM was able to close bullish, and we had the I think it was an SMT right here. So the two-stage cracking correlation for that reversal signature was confirmed there. And then again, on the 3-minute, like I said, at 11 a.m., you can see it start to expand, but this was prior to 11. So easily 11 o'clock expanded. We retraced. I was close to moving my stop loss right here on this 3-minute, but again, I remember my risk management rules. We don't move a stop loss until a 5-minute swing point is formed. So once this formed and we had that change in the state of delivery here, my stop loss was right here, minimizing my risk due to the loss I already took. And then clearly you can see how the trade was taken, it hit TP basically. So, but overall, that is the recap for today's session, guys. Little tricky, but overall we were able to get in sync even after the loss. Again, that loss was able to give me some more information, so I'm perfectly fine with that. That is why I was able to resync myself and get aligned with order flow literally right after. So again, losses are part of the game, so it's just something that we all have to get used to it and not really get triggered about them. So that is basically it. I guess key takeaways for this video: stick to your higher time frame idea, right? The daily is bullish, just stick with being bullish, you know what I mean? Unless what will give you your actual final answer is the 4-hour profile, right? If we have the low of day with an SMT, I don't think we do have a PSP though here, so yeah, we don't, but that's okay. Again, don't really need that fully, because if we start seeing expansion, then that's all that matters, because clearly we have that V-shaped reversal, and that's perfectly fine. Again, once we hit a previous day's high, you really want to ask yourselves, are we manipulating or are we failing to manipulate? Clearly we failed to manipulate, right? And then now once we took out that high, ask yourselves, what are we doing right now? Is it a new phase of price? Are we retracing? Are we going to consolidate to manipulate lower to continue going higher? Clearly we had that retracement phase, and again, if you're waiting for something, you would want to wait personally for that C2 closure. I think that's the easiest. You can clearly see how C3 expanded much higher, guys. So personally, I'm going to really try to remember that. I'm going to actually even write it down right now. Let's try to see if we can actually just wait for the C2 closures, because sometimes trying to trade this can be very tricky. Like I said, clearly, as you can see, it's a big mess here, right? But sometimes it can actually play in your favor, because sometimes it can be a very quick reversal, which especially because all of them were aligned. Let me see if this actually reversed here. Yeah, you can see how it was a little tricky, because while this V-shaped, look what ES was doing. It was still respecting its inefficiency here, and then same thing with NQ. So it was still respecting the gap, which wasn't a surprise now that I'm looking back, because this was a strength switch. So as this consolidates, this is catching up, right? So that's something to keep in mind. But overall, wait for those nice, if you can anticipate the C2 closure, good for you. That's good. It's always it's a little more difficult trying to trade the C2, but as you can see, C3 is the way to go. Personally, I noticed I trade a lot the C3, specifically on the 4-hour. I really like the 4-hour, right? Because that 4-hour is very easy. You can get a lot of information based off that one candle, right? Depending on your whole thesis for the higher time frame. But yeah, the 4-hour helps a lot. And then just getting that information on the hourly, of course, and then 30-minute. But overall, guys, that is it. Hopefully this video helps a lot. And of course, have a good night, stay safe, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Take care.